So let me introduce you to Kristy Robinett. She is a revolutionary psychic medium and astrologer. In addition to giving readings and teaching workshops, she uses her psychic skills to assist with police investigations. She lectures across the country and is a frequent media commentator, appearing on ID Channel's Restless Souls, Fox News, ABC News, Coast to Coast, and many more. You can check her out at KristyRobinett.com. But for right now, let's meet her live and nationwide. Hi, Kristy. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited.
I am so excited because in this world, we know that the world is a little crazy right now. Yeah,
Right.
world war, pandemics, people in our world, everybody's thing is, I'm an empath. I'm an empath, and they look at it like it's the burden of the world. And you have this beautiful new book called "Embrace Your Empathy." So tell us a little bit about this. Where'd it come from?
So I'm also an empath, and I also thought that it was a burden or a curse, and it took me a long time in my short 50 something years to sort of figure out that it is a blessing, and it was a blessing. And I do lectures and I do sessions with clients, and they're always like, this is the worst thing, like, how do I make it go away? And I'm like, no, 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 let's talk about this. So I went, I want to help a larger scale audience. And I started writing it in the middle of probably one of the craziest times in my life. My dad was having quadruple bypass, my brother was dying, my husband was just diagnosed with cancer, the pandemic was here, I just lost a pet. Like it was like a bad country song, that did not make it to the top charts. So it was really bad. And I sat down, and it really was kind of like therapy for me because as I was going through all of this, I was starting to believe that maybe being an empath was a curse, that feeling all of the feelings was negative, and I was being able to sort of reroute that belief back into something positive. And if I could do it for myself during all of the crazy time, I thought I should hopefully help at least one person. Like if it just helped one person, I was doing my job with it. I went to my publisher. I tried to pull the contract. I wrote it. I threw it in the garbage. I rewrote it. Like I was my own worst enemy, which is such a typical empath, thing to do. And I was really finally, able to sort of set sail with it. And I think it came out in the perfect time because as we, are currently seeing Ukraine and Russia and the pandemic is still, going. And so I think that there's such a misconception that empaths, it's a terrible thing, that they're weak, that they are like the weakest link, which is false. And there's a misconception that there's a one size fits all empath. So I teach in the book the different types of empaths and that not every empath is the crier. I am the one that cries with everything though, but there are some very strong, non criers as well, and that they can be great leaders. They don't have to be the weak ones.
That is beautiful. So explain for my audience. Okay, they go, I hear this all the time. Empath. What is an empath? How do you?
So we kind of have to classify it because there are different empaths. So there's the intuitive empath, which is those that feel the energy from people. They are the psychics. They are the healers. They are combined with the emotional empath, which feels the emotions of people. So the intuitive empath is the person that is the human lie detector. So they know when somebody is lying and they don't know why, and it's painful to them for someone to stand in front of them and tell a blatant lie. It physically, emotionally, to the core, soul hurts them. The emotional empath feels the mood. They can walk into a room and they can feel the emotions, even if somebody is faking that they're okay. They're the ones that knows somehow that that person had a fight with their spouse the night before. They know that emotional. Then there is the physical empath, which feels the physical attributes, the pain, the physical elements. They end up being the healers, like the physical doctors, nurses, Reiki, even therapists. And then there is the earth empath. And the earth empath is the one that says, I just need to get out into nature. A lot of times they're classified as the hippie, the tree huggers. And they are attuned to crystals and they're attuned to herbs and the garden. And they might be the kitchen witches and the ones that, really need to ground themselves. So an empath is somebody who feels energy, whether it is through the physical sense, through the intuitive sense, through the earthly sense, and beyond.
That is beautiful. So again, so you see like you just said it, why people all freak out about it. It's like, I physically hurt when I do this. So how do you turn that into a gift?
Well, I think that a lot of people just want to turn it off,
Yeah.
right? They just want to say, just take this away from me. I love being psychic, but I don't like being an empath. I love being a medium. I love seeing ghosts, but I don't want to feel all of that. And I firmly believe that you can learn how to dial it up and dial it down. And we can utilize whatever is good for you. I think the first important thing is to set an intention with regards to it. And that sort of sets the dial, the balance of the dial. So if you're feeling everything all the time and you're feeling a bit mentally unstable because of it, then you set the intention of, I receive as much as I can, handle, and not anything not anything more, not anything less, and connecting with your spirit guides and building that relationship with them so that they know that you can only handle so much, and when you're ready to dial it up or you need to dial it down, you can do so. And I actually utilize a lot of different meditations in the book, which are also a really great way to set that intention, or because the typical, a lot of empaths or a lot of psychics or a lot in that that world will say, well, I'm putting the white light around me, that should be enough, right? Like, I don't understand. But it's not, because everyone has their own unique thumbprint, their spiritual thumbprint. And so, just as you can go to the doctor and your spouse might do really great with one antibiotic, but you can't take that antibiotic, you have to take another antibiotic. The same with our spiritual side, it's not a one size fits all. So, meditation, grounding, crystals, and who you're hanging around. How much are you allowing in your life that's calling you weak? That's, you know, creating all of these terrible, words of affirmation that you're allowing and you're listening to them as well.
Good. So do you give people clues or hints or exercises to figure out what they are themselves or how they
I
do it?
do. So, for instance, so the emotional empath. Let's talk. I just
Yeah.
opened the book and it
Good.
came to
Open the
that.
book.
Open the book. So, spiritually, it's like, yes. So, are you an emotional empath? Have you ever been called oversensitive? Yes. Do loud noises irritate you or cause you anxiety? Like, there are times where I actually think I could murder my husband for snoring. Like, there are moments of time, like he's eating too loud. Like, I am one of those. After spending time with someone, have you ever felt emotionally exhausted? Do crowds make you feel tired, sick, or uneasy? Do you tend to look out for the underdog? Have you ever felt someone else's emotion in your own body, mind, and spirit? Do you feel exhausted by angry people? Are you chronically tired or suffer from depression or anxiety? Do you feel as if you oversee everyone else's happiness? And does seeing or hearing about a person or an animal that's injured or sad or going through a hard time emotionally hurt you? And the emotions don't have to be just crying, it can just be that gut wrenching, like a knife going into your stomach. And so, with every empath, I have the you're an empath if, kind of like, you're a redneck if, and um you don't have to be all of those things, because again, typically I say if you're three of those things, then you probably fit the category of that.
That is good. And again, I'm sure many people listening to the show because of who we are going, "Oh yeah, I've got at least 3 of those."
Yeah,
So what are some of the other ones? I love this and I love lists. So how do you know that you're a physical empath, say?
perfect. Have you ever been called oversensitive? You're going to see this pretty much on the top of every single one of them, because especially if you're in the corporate world, I mean, a lot of times people, they, when they're an empath, they feel all of that energy. And in the corporate world, you're supposed to be tough and you're supposed to be strong. And again, it doesn't mean that you're not, but it's how you relate to it. And by the way, men can be empaths just as much as women. There's not a, like, oh, it's an 80% woman thing and a 20%. There is no bias with regards to gender with that. Have you ever been labeled a hypochondriac? After spending time
Ah.
with someone, have you ever felt exhausted? Do crowds make you feel sick, tired, or uneasy? Have you ever felt anyone else's anxiety? Have you ever felt someone's physical pain? So I, I'm not taking credit, but I knew my husband had cancer because
Mm.
when I read for somebody who has cancer, I see Dalmatian spots on them.
Ah.
So kept seeing these Dalmatian mold spore spots on him, and I'd go to the doctor, and they are like, "What is wrong with you?" Like, on paper, he looked great. His blood was fine. Like, there was nothing. He hadn't lost weight. There was nothing wrong with him. And thankfully, I've got a really great, team of medical doctors that believe in me and they understand that I see weird things, and they did the right test and we caught his cancer like so early that they were like, that's that. But the hypochondriac, element, or you're feeling somebody else's pain, and sometimes you think that it's yours, and that's where that hypochondriac comes from. Someone's got a headache, a migraine, and you're like, oh, I've got a migraine, I don't know why. And then your cubicle mate is like, oh, I've had a migraine for 3 days, and you're like, you're the reason why I have a migraine. And so that's a physical empath. Do you feel exhausted by angry people, or do you try to avoid them? Which can sometimes make an empath seem passive as
Mm.
well. Are you chronically tired or suffering from unexplained physical symptoms? And when the world is heavy, do you feel it best to just stay home, just kind of wanting to go into your blanket fort? Does seeing or hearing about a person or animal injured physically hurt you? So I actually had an experience where I had been investigating a tuberculosis hospital, and I came back from that coughing and like I was so sick. And I went to my doctor and he's like, "If I didn't know better, I'd say you have tuberculosis." And I was like, "Well, that's kind of weird because I was just investigating a tuber." And he's like, "Well, one, we're going to test you for TB, right? Like, who knows? It's weird." But really, honestly, I think that it's the empath part of you that you absorb the energy from a spirit or from the building, that was there. So a lot of times you can feel like you're going crazy.
That you turned on such a light bulb in my head because I understand empaths. I'm an empath. I've never related that why that person is a hypochondriac to an empathic thing before. Thank you. That will help me give a lot more understanding. Do you get every friggin' disease that you hear about? Oh, maybe you do. Maybe it's just an empathic
Right.
thing. Ah, thank
Yeah.
you.
And
Light
I and
bulb
I
moment.
I think it does give some compassion. That's what I said, that understanding an empath, even if you're not an empath, will help you better understand society of empaths, because there's a chapter in there regards to if your child is an empath, maybe you're not, but your child might be, or your spouse is, and how you better handle them and the things you should and shouldn't say to them, because it is more detrimental and makes them feel like their gift is a curse or is, not a blessing like it really is.
That is beautiful, especially with children, because people don't know how to deal with that, especially because I do believe the gift starts very young in
Sure.
whatever your gifts are, and it's not your imaginary whatever that is. So,
Right.
okay, while we're on this, like, we understand emotions and we understand physical, so how is what's an intuitive empath?
And it
That's a little harder to
it's
diagnose, so to
a
speak?
well, a little bit, I think that it really goes into the clairvoyant, and all the different clairs of that.
Mhm.
So that one gets a little bit more woo woo, even though, like, this is our world, right? We don't think
Yeah,
it's woo woo, but
no.
the whatever normal
Muggles.
is. Yeah, exactly. They might think that it is. But does your intuition give you a clear picture of something beyond the surface level? Are you able to help others verbalize what they're feeling? Are you a natural go for advice or counseling? So, this is somebody that can be in the grocery store minding their own business, and a complete stranger comes up and says, "Do you have a roast recipe?" And they're like, "Yeah, actually, I do." And then they go shopping with the person, and then they're telling their life story, and the person's like, "I don't understand. I have never told my life story to anybody. I don't even know why I'm telling, like, do you have some truth serum in your purse? Like, what's going
Mhm.
on?" So that's where they're like, "I am so tired of hearing about other people's stuff, but it's your gift. It is what it is." Do you suffer from autoimmune issues or chronic pain, chronic fatigue, lupus, fibromyalgia, all of those sort of autoimmune? I call it the empath disease. My publisher says I'm not allowed to say that, but a lot of those people who have the autoimmune diseases, it's sort of like someone has come up to them and taken their intuitive emotional side and just started wringing every bit of, ounce of body, mind, and soul out of them. Do you trust your gut when deciding on a matter? Can you sense the emotions of your loved ones even if they aren't physically with them? So, whether it is someone geographically away or it might be somebody spiritually away. Are you quick to spot when someone's lying? So that lie detector. Do you consider yourself creative or artistic? And lastly, do you need alone time to rebalance and bounce back? Again, kind of like the whole blanket fort of things, but needing
Yeah.
some alone time to sort of recenter yourself.
You just gave me another light bulb moment, Christy. Oh my gosh, you were brilliant. I am that person. I had health issues and this and about me, and it was a drug my mom took when she was pregnant with me, but I had, does she have lupus? We don't know. Does she have fibromyalgia? We don't know. All these, all the autoimmune of the day. I never put it to the empath, but I did at 30 went, no, I'm not buying into any of this. I am a
Right.
psychic. I am a medium. I am a witch. I'm a healer. And all of it went away. All of it went
Isn't that
completely
interesting?
away. Yeah.
Yeah, and
No.
I do believe that there is an ability to somatically heal ourselves. And I also believe that we in utero take the energy of our parents,
Mhm.
the cells from that, along with reincarnation, which I believe that we take the energy and we bring it into this lifetime as well.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly, and this was an artificial hormone given to my mom, and I got all the stuff that went with it, but I haven't been sick in decades, so there you
Good.
go.
Let's
Yeah,
knock on I'm a knock on wood type of a person. I'm
I've
knocking
got
on
wood
wood.
everywhere. Yes, me too. Now I know that you also I am so fascinated by this. You talk about empaths and love. Now why do you do that?
Yeah. Well, because a lot of empaths end up attracting toxic people, narcissists.
Mm,
They are, and whatever empath you are, they tend to attract the broken because they see the best in that person. So they see their soul and the ability for their soul to be whole. And so they give them a chance and they give them another chance and they give them another chance. And a lot of times, what happens is they start losing themselves through the ordeal. So I thought it was really important, and especially my teenagers and my 20 something year olds, to understand that we aren't supposed to fix everybody. We aren't supposed to heal everybody, that we have a purpose in life, but it is to hand tools to people and not fix. Even MDs, they don't go bedside every night to make sure you're taking the medication or that you're drinking the water that you're supposed to be drinking, or they don't do that or fix your dinner. They give you the tools. They tell you this is what
right.
you should do. And in relationships, we need to do the exact same thing. And then on the other side, if you're in a relationship with somebody who is not an empath, it doesn't mean that they're a bad person. Um, but that they should understand that if you burst into tears, that it doesn't make you weak, that you're not a weak person, and to respect the boundaries, to respect if you need to go out into the woods by yourself and ground yourself, or you need to find a meditation room and burn sage and play with your crystals.
Mhm.
So it's a trust level, but it's an understanding through that trust level.
That is beautiful. So that's about communicating too with if other people involved. It's
It is,
which
and how to
now
better communicate.
do you find that some kind of empaths don't communicate as well because of everything going on?
I think a lot of times empaths have a hard time communicating and also accepting help. So
Mm.
it is like they think it's their job to be the helper. And therefore, if they are asking for help, if they're doing this call out, it means that they're not doing their job. Therefore, they are weak or they are whatever. So they end up getting burned out, which is again kind of the autoimmune situation too. Or they end up having depression or anxiety or ADD or, different overwhelming overload. And then it just becomes this very toxic cycle. And so the healing element of relationships, whether it's with a boss or a parent or a child or a whatever, whoever it is, best friend, that's learning how to say, look at, I am ready to break. I'm at my breaking point. I need this from you. Or I don't need anything from you. Just let me have my breaking point. So it kind of touches into like the love languages, right? We know there's a great book called The Five Love Languages and how we can better communicate through those and learning one another's love language. It's like an empath language that we have to learn how to better, decipher one another's, because I say all the time, which is funny, my husband thinks it's ridiculous, but I'm like, "I am not a mind reader." Like, I am a psychic medium, but, unless your guide is telling me what you're thinking, I need you to speak up. I am not a mind reader. I'm not a, I don't have a
Mhm.
crystal ball. I'm not, trying to like, that'd be exhausting if we were doing that with every human being, but a lot of empaths think that they're supposed to.
Yeah. Oh, that's so. So, what are some things? Okay, so somebody decides I'm this kind or I'm that kind. Can you be like one third this kind and one third that kind, or a little
Sure.
bit of just across the board? You're a
You could be a mixing bag of all of them or one of them or two of them or absolutely. So,
okay.
like, I've never been classified as a hippie per se, I've never been like the tree hugger type, but I I personally, I do need to be in nature, even if it's going for a drive. Now, I don't want to jump into water because I'm afraid of fish and sharks and stupidly, I don't know, maybe a past life I was eaten by a whale. I have no idea. But not really. That's just a joke. But everybody can have a taste of that. So not everybody wants to live in a remote rural area and live in a cabin where there's no people. And empaths are allowed to like people too, even though it can be overwhelming. And we have to. We cannot all hermit. And this pandemic has shown a lot of empaths that they thought that they were introverts and they realized that they actually feed off of people and they're probably what I call an ambivert. They're a mix of the introvert, extrovert, and they just need some downtime away from that too. So yeah, you can be a mixed bag of all of that. Do you feel like you wanna be out in nature? Do you like
Yeah,
being in
I've gotta
nature?
be nature. I bought my house for the backyard. Yeah, I'm a bit of a tree hugger. I tell
Yeah,
people, "No, you go hug a tree. That's all you need right now." I'm elemental in my magic anyway, so
yeah.
that's just over working with deity and over working with spirit and energy, I work with nature. So,
Well, and I
yes,
say
I
that
am.
all the
I'm a
time,
tree
like,
hugger, crystal girl. Uh,
physically go hug a tree, like, physically go hug that tree,
physically go hug
and
that tree.
that is, like, even if you're not a physical empath or go hug a tree anyway. If you're not an earth empath, go hug a tree anyway because, gosh, there's so much healing in nature.
And they're the information keepers. I mean, look at the Kabbalistic, the tree of life. Every religion have the tree of life. To me, if you really wanna get some answers and meditation and, "Oh, I can't go meditate and do this." go for a minute, go sit by a tree with your butt on the ground and your
Thank you.
spine along the trunk and just
Yep.
listen.
And if you can't
Just
do that,
listen.
if you're in the crazy Midwest like I am, where we're expecting a half a foot of snow in the next 12 hours, you can actually, and I have it in the book too, is envision in your mind's eye that you're sitting next to a tree, your favorite tree. Like you can have your spiritual tree, that is
Yes.
your tree. It doesn't have bugs, it doesn't have, anything that you might be afraid of. And you can hug that tree. I do it in the grocery store when I'm feeling overwhelmed and there's too many people around. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go find my tree. I love my willow tree. I love my oak tree. I just let it heal me. And
Yeah.
it is so peaceful.
Yeah, I do the same thing, and I also say, grab a pencil. It's wood. It still has some
Yeah.
spirit of that tree, even though it's been painted and this and had lead stick in the middle. There's a grounding to the lead too. I will say, touch wood, there's
Yep.
always something.
I'm the knock on wood person for
Yeah,
sure.
exactly.
So,
S
absolutely.
so those are really good things for the physicality. So physical, get in nature, and I preach that pretty much daily. So what are some of the other things? What if you're the emotional, or what if you're, the intuitive? How do you, again, on off switch? I use that too. I use dimmer
Yeah.
switch on off,
Yeah.
but
The, the emotional and the intuitive both. I think a lot of those empaths had a lot of trauma in their childhood. And so I think a really good kind of meditation for that is to envision your younger self and to relove that self. It's very common sense stuff that we've been taught, time and time before, but it's a lot of being reminded that we
Mhm.
need to do that. So it is, if you're not a good envisioning person, then writing a letter to your younger self. And you can even write a letter to the person that hurt you, or you think that the trauma happened, and burn it or rip it up. And the new moons and the full moons are such great times to do, those sort of practices.
Yes.
I am a crystal girl. I love my crystals. So, a one size fits all crystal is amethyst. So amethyst is an amazing crystal to grab onto because it takes a lot of the emotions. Selenite is another one. It's really good at that aura cleansing and taking all of these emotions. And I've got one right here too. It's out of my reach.
It's like,
Um,
oh, selenite, you
and
say? I keep
yeah,
it right here.
selenite's amazing, and it just takes and it absorbs all of your excess residue. That it knows what it's supposed to do. There's no magic that you have to say to it or give to it. It already knows what it's connected to you in that way. And so that is just a really easy practice. Another really wonderful for any of the empaths as well is to envision a backpack. Like, do you feel a backpack on you? Is it heavy? Is it not heavy? And take it, shrug it off, like in your visual, mind's eye, and start taking the things out of your backpack and see what it is. Is it a rock? Is it labeled something? Is it a boulder? Is it labeled something? And then you can either envision going to a river or a lake and throwing all of that stuff in. You're not loitering, I promise. The spiritual world will take care of it. Or, actually going to a lake and throwing a stone, into a lake or into a waterway and feel the lightness of that load happen. You can do that even every night before you go to bed.
I love that. That's good. I've never done it with a backpack before. That's amazing. Um, I have so many questions I could ask you. I'm just gonna have you come back. Will you come back one of these
Oh,
days?
thanks. I would love to,
I
Patty.
would
I would.
love that too. But before we go, anything else you want to? I want to get into like how people can find you and how people can get this beautiful book. But is there any other moments of wisdom that you think my people need to hear? They're
Oh my
listening
gosh.
hard.
So, another really good way to embrace your empathy is to listen to music and to watch what music you're listening to. Because if it's angry, if it is, if it's like a lower vibrational music, that is going to set the course for your feelings, your day, your year, your relationships. If it is that, I'm not going against anyone who loves screamo or heavy, like that's not what I'm saying. But make sure that that vibration that you're allowing, kind of that chakra balancing, in that. I remember, and this is such a real life thing, I had gotten divorced years and years and years ago, and it was a good thing. Back then I didn't think it was a good thing, but it's kind of one of those where in the end you're like, oh, that's why it happened. But I had gone to a divorce recovery class, and in it they said, don't listen to anything sad. Like, don't turn on the country music, because back then it was all, I
Yeah.
lost my dog, I lost my truck, I lost my wife, all of
Right.
that. And but don't listen to anything sad. Put on, 80s dance music. Put on anything that you can stomp your energy out of, kind of like having a temper tantrum, but you're
Mhm.
stomping that energy. And so, utilizing music, even doing a musical instrument, and utilizing the vibrations of that is also a really easy way to embrace your empathy, to embrace that empath, and to turn healthier with it too.
I love that. I love that. So you're setting your environment, and sound is so
Yep.
healing. Sound is magic in itself. So very good advice. Thank you. So again, tell people where they can get your book.
So the book is
Beautiful,
available
beautiful
wherever books
book.
are. Thank you. It's Amazon, Walmart, Barnes and Noble, Books a Million, pretty much anywhere. My publisher is Llewellyn. Super excited. It has been a bestseller. So I'm so happy that the message has gotten out to so many people. Very grateful.
And
My
you're
website is my name. So it's KristyRobinett.com. My socials are my name, Kristy Robinett. I'm completely accessible, and it's KristyRobinett. Everyone wants to French it up and be like Kristy Robinett, but that's Robinette.
It's
So,
Robinette. I love
Robinette.
that. So you guys, really, I recommend this book, and it could not have came out at a better time because I honestly, how we opened up, I had this conversation. Everybody, I'm an empath. I can't go out anymore. I can't. It's,
Yeah,
but you have to, and it's,
yeah,
some things are getting worse by the minute. So this
right.
could be your savior. Everybody, get this book. So check out Kristy Robinett, KristyRobinett.com. Um, and then come back again because I've had
Love
many
to.
light bulbs this, and I'm sure my people did too. So thank you for visiting the Witching
Thanks,
Hour.
Patty. I appreciate it. Thank you so much, everybody. Take care. Be blessed.
Yay.